more than I thought they would be. How big is your yarn stash? Gosh, I feel like asking that is like asking a woman how old she is or how much she weighs. It doesn't really matter if your stash is big or small. It's more about how you feel about it. And I am feeling overwhelmed. My stash has got to, well, far bigger proportions than I had ever anticipated it growing to. And it's getting to the point where it is causing me stress. It is taking up too much space in my house. I need that space for other things, such as, you know, stuff for the 3 small children that I have. And so I am on a mission to stash bust. And I'm hoping that you will join me, keep me accountable, give me some ideas, inspiration, encouragement to get me through. My goal is to fit all of my yarn into my bureau desk. So the desk has 3 shelves. You can fit a good amount of yarn in there. I shouldn't need more than that. And I'm hoping that, you know, once it's in there, it'll be nice and visible, easy to use, easy to see what I've got, but I need to reach that point. Currently, it's stashed in multiple places around my house. So the bulk is in my desk and in the Kallax unit. There's a certain amount under my bed, in my wardrobe, in my working project trolley. Oh gosh, that's in quite a few places. But I'm hoping if I get it all together, if I stash it, so I'm going to put it on Ravelry as my official stash so that I can keep track of it really well, and slowly chip away at it, shrink down that stash. I mean, in all honesty, I'm wondering quite how small I can get it, but I don't want to eliminate my stash. You know, I'm a crochet pattern designer. I do need a certain amount of yarn on hand for projects that I'm working on, for things that come up last minute when you don't have time to order the yarn. But yeah, right now it is just monstrous proportions and something needs to change. Realistic or not, this is where I'd like my stash to fit. Yet another place where I hide stash. And more. I don't think this one is all stash. No, the rest is sewing. And I've rounded up a few more bits and bobs in here. We'll definitely be needing these. Just a little bit more than I thought there would be. Step 1 for me today is going to be sorting it by weight and removing anything that I already have a project in mind for and sticking it in a project bag. Wish me luck. And this is a lovely skein that was given to me by my friend. Oh, I still need to find a project for it. Maybe I should be sensible and start at the top. I'm going to keep cotton separately. Thankfully, this big bag I already have a project for. It's going to be my Christmas jumper, although not the most festive colours. Where's the other colour? The, ooh, gosh, it's all falling. The yarn I bought to make my daughter a Harry Potter scarf. I have finished it now, but I have lots left over. Scraps might be where I run into a problem. I think I'm just going to put them in a scraps pile for now. Leftovers from a pattern that's coming soon. So a lot of leftovers. Some beautiful yarn that I won from Rainbows and Sprinkles. And some gorgeous 4-ply that I won from Craft House Magic that, again, I need to find a project for. stuff that's beyond chunky, I'm gonna give a separate pearl. My DK weight box is very full. I need to find another one. So DK weight is now a bucket. Some gorgeous yarn that my last employer gave to me when I left. But as you can see, I tried to use the skein and it completely unraveled on me. Then I fell out of love with the project and have yet to untangle it all. Some Aran left from my beautiful bugs blanket. And some more gorgeous yarn that I won from Craft House Magic. Some beautiful, beautiful sock yarn. This is one of my favourite sock yarns that I've ever worked with even. Rum Paradise, and oh gosh, which manufacturer is it? I've forgotten that now. West Yorkshire Spinners. Not only is it almost rainbow colours, which is just amazing because of how bright they are, but I made a pair of socks for my best friend and her daughter out of this a couple of Christmases ago. Yeah, love it. The slightly more subtle sock yarn that I used to make socks for my husband. And the beautiful Hobbit themed yarn that I won last year. I'm waiting until I can knit socks to use this. I do not remember what yarn this is, but it is super duper soft. I'm gonna guess chunky. Leftovers from my bubble stitch blanket. I'm not very good at guessing how much yarn I'm gonna need for a project, and I run out just as often. Oh my gosh, that's everywhere. I run out just as often as I have too much. So really should start making swatches even if it's for a blanket. But yeah, some cute silvery thread that a friend gave me. I wanted to find something, well, I wanted to find some sparkly yarn, and at the time I was struggling to get hold of the JC Brett Twinkle yarn that I'd been using before. So I had considered weaving this in with another yarn, you know, holding them double. The first hand-dyed skein I ever won. And yes, all of my hand-dyed skeins were won because I can't afford that. I don't usually like working with chunky yarn, but I bought a load to make a ginormous Sophie's Universe, except I fell out of love with the colour palette partway through and unravelled it all. Now I'm finding creative ways to use it all up, like when I made a blanket for my daughter before she was born. Okay, everything is, oh no, I've got this one, Aran. Everything is now sorted by weight, now to figure out how to put it all away. So I've decided the best way to organise things for now is to Ravelry stash my yarn and then try and put it away in some kind of organised fashion. I've got a bag here for anything DK weight that I do not want to keep in my stash, that is going to go straight into my scrap gown, so I'm not going to count those in my stash. Equally, I've got a bag down by my feet that I'm going to keep for yarn that's going to be donated. Now, I have already recently donated, I think like 95% of my chenille and super chunky weight yarn, just because I don't like working with it. It really hurts my wrists and my hands, and I can only do it for a short period of time, so that's all gone. There might be a few bits lingering around, but we shall see. I think this is Storm Blue. And so I just need to weigh it. 18 grams, and add it to my stash. Okay, one down, a million to go. Given that it's my most used yarn, I want to keep my DK weight as visible as possible. So it's the first thing going back in the desk. So a few things about how I've decided to track my stash. Yes, I'm doing it on Ravelry, but there's a few caveats. I'm not counting as stash any yarn that's part of an active project. So as I finish up the projects that I'm currently working on, if there's yarn left over, that's going to be added back into stash. So the number might go up a little bit. Oh, she says she hopes a little bit before it comes back down. Equally, in terms of my running tally that I'm going to keep you apprised of, I'm going to measure it in 100-gram balls. I'm doing it in this fashion because I largely use DK weight acrylic and it tends to come in 100-gram balls. So fingers crossed that total will slowly drip down towards the target. So I'm hoping to use up my stash in a number of different ways. Firstly, as a crochet pattern designer, I figure, hey, I can design whatever I want to use up what I've got, right? Yes, that's the thing, I'm hoping. Secondly, I love to make handmade gifts for people. So I figure, you know, birthdays, Christmases, babies being born, perfect excuses to use up yarn. And lastly, I'm hoping that from inspiration from you guys, I can create a few things to give away. So obviously you guys didn't know that I was going to be starting this journey today. However, I did give my email subscribers a bit of a heads up last week and asked if they had any ideas for me. I'll put a photo up of the suggestions that I've received. The very lovely Barbara, who it turns out crochets hats for teeny tiny babies in hospital, gave me the fabulous suggestion of making some of those hats myself. She said that even teeny tiny scraps can be helpful because even if it just makes up one stripe, it can make your hats look beautiful. So I will certainly be making a few of those in the near future. I also had a lovely suggestion from Christy. So she sent me a link to loads of gnome patterns. Now, I'm not going to lie, amigurumi, not something that I excel at. I always end up with the really obvious stripes on the back where I change colours. I have yet to learn how to do joggler stripes, but the page that she suggested has some really beautiful patterns. Some of them are Christmas themed, which would be very appropriate for this time of year. Some of them are Halloween and Thanksgiving themed, maybe cutting it a bit too close for how much free time I have. And some of them aren't very seasonal at all, so they were like little angels and all sorts. So I'm definitely going to have a browse of those. And if I'm feeling brave, I will attempt at least one. Courtesy of a recent smaller attempt to destash, I did get rid of all of my chenille and super bulky weight yarn to the charity shop. Or so I thought. I did find 2 very tiny balls of chenille yarn that will be making their way to the donation pile. I've also filled one tiny bag, I mean I say tiny, it's not teeny tiny, bag with odds and sods. So yarns that aren't quite suitable for the scrap gown that I'm making at the moment, but I'm hoping will go into a future one. Therefore, I haven't put them in the donation pile yet. However, I'm very mindful that I want this stash to get smaller, and this isn't even counted in my total that I'm coming up with today. So if I don't use it in the next 6 months, I am going to put it straight into the donation pile so that someone else can make better use of it. So, the moment of truth, the moment you've hopefully been waiting for and I've been dreading. How big is my yarn stash? Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, my eyes were slightly watering when I read this total. Currently, in terms of 100-gram equivalent balls of yarn, according to my lovely spreadsheet from Ravelry, I have 377 and a half 100-gram ball equivalents of yarn in my stash. Yeah. So, if you have any ideas on how I can use up some of the stash really quickly, or want to share your own scrap busting photos with me, please leave them in the comments. I really need some inspiration.